Welcome to Reinventing the Arena, the podcast that guides you through the powerful journey of aligning, embodying, and rising into your most authentic self. We dive deep into the transformative power of doing the inner work because the most important relationship you have is the one with yourself. When you align with your authentic self, you naturally attract the relationships and experiences meant for you. I'm your host, Molly Conley, a coach who's passionate about helping you uncover who you truly are using human design, NLP, and self-empowerment tools. Here we explore the art of aligning with your authentic self, embodying your highest potential, and rising above old patterns to create a life that resonates with who you truly are. Whether you're seeking deeper fulfillment in love or your personal journey, this space is designed to inspire your evolution. Together, we'll explore self-discovery, share transformational stories, and uncover the energetic shifts needed to create the love and life you truly desire. This isn't just about change. It's about fully stepping into who you were meant to be. So, lady, align, embody, and rise. Welcome to your journey of self-transformation. Welcome to Reinventing the Arena. Hey there, lady. I'm excited to have my husband back on the podcast.
Hello.
We recently visited Portland, where we will call home in such a few short months. And Brad has been doing quite a few things lately, such as training for a triathlon or two. Yeah, Brad, why don't you catch people up a little bit about what has been going on? Because you haven't been here since last year.
Yeah, it's been a little while. Yeah, like you said, the main thing I'm doing right now is my training for a couple triathlons, Olympic distance triathlons this summer. I've been kind of training heavily since January. Just kind of had a big training day this morning with the first open water swim of the season, so that was nice and cool. Got a good bike ride in after that. Been trying to ramp up on the, helping you with the Portland move and getting all those stuff done in anticipation of the move. Still a lot to do. But also been fairly busy at work. And yeah, looking forward to getting to the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, I think you and me both would be great. So today, what's wonderful is that out of his busy schedule of training, work, preparing for move, and all the things, Brad is here today as I'm sharing our connection in human design. So if you would like, you can actually view this on YouTube later today. If you actually want to see the charts, how Brad's and mine look, and then how they actually go together, which is called a connection chart in human design. Okay, so a connection chart has person A's and person B's charts off to either side with a larger chart that shows the combination of their design in the middle. In this chart, Brad is to the left in orange, and I am to the right in blue. So if you're new here, I'll give you a quick run through of a human design chart. So this is also called a body graph, and it's made of 9 centers that are similar to the chakra system. And we're going to start at the top. That is the head, the ajna, the throat, the identity center, the heart center, the solar plexus, the sacral, the spleen, and the root. Those small little numbers are called gates. Each and every one of them, which is 64 to be exact, have their own meaning. And when they connect to another gate, such as the 26 here to 44, they create what's called a channel. And when they do that, it creates a channel that has its own meaning within itself. And these channels help then define the centers. So this one then helps define the heart center, and this one helps define the spleen center. And obviously, if you've listened to the last 2 episodes, you know that each of these centers has its own theme. So today, I'm only going to discuss Brad's and my connection, which is a 9 and O relationship within our chart, how those designs work together, and areas for us to learn lean into to grow. I will not be going into the other gates or other aspects of our chart that makes us such a long podcast. We could be talking about it for days, honestly, as well as there might be something that I would dig into a little bit depending on how it shows up in Brad's or my chart, because it might be relevant for our relationship reading, which is what I normally do for clients that have booked a relationship reading. So, like I said, if you have listened to the last 2 prior episodes about the 9 energy centers, you can see where each of us are defined, undefined, and open. Brad has an open head center, an undefined ajna, and an undefined solar plexus. I, on the other hand, have an open heart center with the following undefined centers: the head, the ajna, the throat, the identity center, the solar plexus, and the root. When these two charts combine, they create a connection theme. And ours is 9 and O, which means that all 9 centers are defined. 9 and O actually has a rhyme to it, which you can see right down here. 9 and O, nowhere to go. And honestly, all of the other themes for a connection chart rhyme as well. There's 8 and 1, have some fun. 7 and 2, work to do. 6 and 3, let them be free. And 5 and 4, not a relationship anymore. Each theme has its own set of strengths and weaknesses. And from my experience with our chart and reading other clients' charts as well, the most healthy connection is actually an 8 and 1. But that doesn't mean that relationships can't work with the others. Well, except maybe 5 and 4 might be a little challenging. That relationship will be likely to be a little bit more difficult, especially if it's forced, and may just need to be an acquaintance, even if it's a family member. Remember, not everyone is designed to work together, but we can all learn from each other and their experiences. So, about the 9 and O, there is a big misconception in the human design world that when we see a 9 and O that we complete each other. So while it's wonderful that our design completes each other in the combined body graph, it can really make it difficult for us to bring other people into our relationship, such as friends and family members. In order to do so in a 9 and O relationship, we both have to want to do that and feel comfortable doing so. So, Brad, when you think about our relationship and what I just explained about bringing other people into our relationship, like what comes up for you?
Well, something we've talked about before is that, you know, I think we have some good friends in town, a very few small group of friends. I think we both thought we would have more, and I think it kind of manifests itself that way in that we are pretty picky about who we spend our time with together. Like, my friends are, you know, out of town and scattered, but I think we'll talk about that later. But you made some more acquaintances here, many more than I have, and spent a little time. There's very few people, really, just a couple couples that we've decided to try to be friends with and spend an amount of time with together. So I can definitely see what you're saying about I call it being picky, who we spend our time with, but the fact that we both have to be willing to let them into our relationship.
Oh, yeah. Like, there's people that I very much enjoy that are friends that if they ask to go on a double date, I can automatically, honestly feel from my sacral that that's not a good idea. Um, and I agree, that sometimes it can even be difficult. It can even be difficult spending time with family. Like, in order for our relationship to work, and for it to work with our family members, you and I need breaks. This is why, like, when we travel back to Omaha, we actually stay in a hotel as we both have sides of the family that we want to see that are in town. And what's really kind of unique for us is that we are possibly, other than your niece, well, I guess our niece, but on your side of the family, we're one of the only relationships that has parents in the same town. So dividing time between them is somewhat tricky. And, we'd rather stay in a hotel to like have our own moments, spend time with, your family one moment, and then spend time with my family another moment, and then actually then see our friends that either are living in the area or are visiting from out of town. Just like you said, your friends travel in from all the places that they live, and we want to have that flexibility as well. So then this kind of like leads me to the flip side of the 9 and 0 relationship, as well as other areas of our chart, is that we really do need space for our own energy. Being together really does feel good and grounded. And for the majority of the time, it's relaxing. But when you look at our charts, as you can see, Brad's energy, he's got, we'll just go ahead and say that he has only 3 that are undefined, 1 open, like I said. He has a more complete body graph than I do. And when we come together, His energy kind of dominates mine, and I desperately need my own space and my alone time. This doesn't mean time away from Brad is a bad thing. It just means that I need to clear my own space, have myself become grounded. And this does include time away from friends, family, and sometimes even locations and experiences to feel more like myself again. Of course, this can vary in other connections with a 9 and O theme. It's just always the nuances where we come back to ourselves in the charts. So, Brad, when we think about that for us, how does that come up for you?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's really been clear from the beginning. You kind of said, even before we got into human design, that you said you need your space, and I, I I learned early on it has something to do with me. We could, yeah, like you said, my energy can kind of dominate. You need your own time. So you made it clear that you need downtime, you need personal time. But that's also been good because it allows me to have time for myself too. And honestly, in previous relationships, that's been lacking. It was I didn't really get my own time because that person did not have that desire to have their own alone time. So I do enjoy that you have that. It's good for you and it's good for me. Um, and we both value that time, and how we each choose to spend it. 'Cause it gives us the opportunity to do things that we enjoy separately, and we have enjoyed separately a long time, in our own lives, but not necessarily that we want to do together.
Mhm.
And so it's good because how each person views this is really important in a relationship, and it's important to speak up for yourself if that's what you need. If you feel that way and you're not saying it, you're not doing it, that's definitely gonna be a problem. And so you made it clear from the beginning, and I understood it. So I never took offense or felt like you need to get away from me or like just because you want to spend time apart, something was wrong with us or with me. So, definitely grateful for that and having it be clear from the beginning. So I think it's really important in a relationship that you establish if you need that, have that talk.
Oh, yeah. And it's really interesting too. And I said that I wasn't going to talk about other parts of people's profiles, but we just wanted to touch on this. Like, if you see here, Brad has a profile type of a 2-4. And yes, I will be going into profile types very soon. Um, a profile type of 2-4 actually needs to have alone time in order for the person to grow. So whether that's 30 minutes of Brad playing drums, which if you see here on YouTube, it's in the background, his drums are right there, or watching a movie, or you going for a run, like today when you actually went and you did your own thing. So like you needed that energetic disconnect from others sometimes, and actually working out can be helpful for that. But I will say you do need more time without other things keeping you entertained, like whether that's sitting down on the couch and just chilling for a minute and not having the TV on or watching a movie or not being on your phone, or feel like you have to be entertained in your own alone time. Um, on the flip side, I'm a 3-5. I have highly individual circuitry. So if you've listened to the embodiment series last fall in November, I kind of talked about this, but like I need my alone time, and that's usually spent in experimentation, contemplation, or reflection. And honestly, that might show up later as we keep digging into the charts. So, when we look into the chart in the centers, there is something called a small split. And in here, you're going to see that's at the very bottom, small split 4356. And that's because these gates right here in between the ajna and the throat don't connect fully. And so this means that there's a lot of energy between our head and our ajna going back and forth for Brad and I. So then everything from the throat downwards allows the energy to flow throughout the rest of the body. And you can see a variety of ways that that does connect. Now, when I see this in our charts, it really does make sense because when we are together, we can get stuck trying to solve problems, come up with solutions, create a process, and find inspiration because those two centers, the head and the ajna, are connected and not connected to the rest of our body. So, if you've listened to those first episodes about the energy centers, part one, you know that using your head and ajna to make a decision is not what you're supposed to do. Instead, you need to use your strategy and authority. Lucky for Brad, we have the same strategy and authority, which is the sacral. Typically, it is difficult for me to pause and use my strategy and authority when I am like not paying attention to how Brad's energy may be affecting me. But sometimes I just have to wait it out. And honestly, Brad, you don't use your strategy and authority all the time or listen to your sacral. But we had a moment when we were in Portland, and actually one today, if you want to discuss that too, where you wish that you would have.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, just a little small example, but it really does demonstrate, what you're talking about, especially for me, someone who doesn't do this enough. Like you say, listen to your gut, which is basically what we're talking about. So on our trip to Portland, I had reserved from Avis a mid-size SUV. And it's supposed to be like a Kia or equivalent. And so we land and we're waiting for our luggage, and I get the text from Avis and see his picture, and my heart just sank. And it's a Jeep Wrangler, and like, yeah, so what? A lot of people that don't care about a Jeep Wrangler, like, I don't care for it. And I guess my thought was like, we're gonna be driving around a lot, looking neighborhoods. We're gonna be driving slow through neighborhoods and this and that. We may drive to the coast at that point. That was an option too. Is like, I don't want this, gas guzzler, like uncomfortable ride. It's just not the best car for driving around town. I told her, I'm like, I don't want this car. And like, I knew I didn't want this car. Like, I went ahead and accepted it, and we walked over there, and we just left. But the whole way walking over, I'm like, "It's just a bad idea, like, I'm not gonna be happy with it." I just knew I wasn't gonna be happy with it. And so, we took it back, we used it for, like, a day and a half, and I'm like, "We're gonna
Mm.
return this car, Saturday morning." And so that's the first thing we did, and it was, like, one of the best decisions we made all weekend, because we got another, like, a Jeep Compass SUV. It was a smooth ride, it was easy to drive. So it's just kind of another, mini lesson about how I should just trust my gut, because there was no reason I could just walk right up to the counter and said, "Hey, I want a different car." I'm sure they could have given us something better.
So, like, what's even funnier if people don't know much about Portland, like the area that we were exploring is Southeast Portland and everything's residential streets. And so that's meaning driving through neighborhoods that are 25 miles per hour. And then if it's on like in a district where there's actually shops and restaurants and whatnot, that can go down to 15 miles per hour. And when you're driving this Jeep Wrangler, it is a pain to do that. As well as Brad, when we took that car in, they decided to upgrade you again. And so what did you do about that? They got us,
Oh.
what was it? They got us a different car than what we wanted. It was like a BMW or something.
Oh, I forgot about that part. Yeah, so when we originally yeah, we said I said I made a new reservation for, again, a mid-sized SUV, and we get there, and up comes this Mercedes.
Oh,
Mercedes. It was gonna be a Mercedes sedan. I said, "I don't want a Mercedes." We drive around these neighborhoods. So we just with this time, we went to the counter and said, "Hey, we don't need this Mercedes, can we just get like an SUV?" And they gave me like a full-size SUV, and it was great. Just yeah, the Wrangler, like you're saying, if it's for driving around, it wasn't comfortable, like for my legs, for my calf, just like trying to drive that slow, just doesn't work very well. But we got a great car for that, so I was very happy about it. But yeah, I had forgotten about the Mercedes part of that as well.
yeah. And so, like,
Um,
you decided to trust your gut twice, and you were like hard set on the second one. So that even is even more embodiment of that strategy and authority decision. So, what
yeah,
were
I
you
was
going to
kind of I,
say?
I learned that lesson and on that roll. Where you mentioned the other one, it was today, and normally we have these open water swims, and I take my bike and I do a bike afterwards, and I like to do a run after that, kind of like do a mini triathlon on these training days, the couple weeks leading up to the my first race. And so obviously, as you know, a couple days ago, I was having some knee pain, and I
Yeah.
was kind of treating that and waiting it out, see how it was. But I knew I wanted to go swim. I said, okay, I'll bring my bike, and try biking out. It'll be kind of a game time decision, and we'll see. So I was able to bike with very minimal knee pain. Things are doing better. But I got done, and I was thinking about running because it was so nice out, and I still had plenty of
Mm.
time. I was like, "Oh, I could just run a few miles, 2, 3 miles, it'd be okay," and, like, but I knew I was trying to convince myself, and I texted you, and I said, "My brain says I should run, and my gut says no, so no run." So,
And what happened
I
with
did
your
not run.
calves?
Yeah, I had cramping in my calves, and I think, running would not have been good for my knees or my body at that point, and I could feel that, I knew that, but my brain was like, "No, you need to train." Do more exercise, but, I'm learning to listen to my body better.
Yeah. That's also part of being an athlete, is learning how to listen to your body, which actually that can actually help you if you have been in athletics before, you've been a dancer, anything like that. That can help you really get into your body more of, especially if that is your strategy and authority. So If we both had more awareness of when we are stuck in the head and the ajna loop of trying to use them as decision makers while not listening to our sacral, we would be able to make decisions that are more aligned with our individual charts as well as our connection chart. Before I share the details of the connection chart, I do want to tell everyone about the types of channels that are created when you put a chart together. So, if you're watching on YouTube, you can actually see the list below. There is the compromise channels, the dominance channels, the companionship channels, and electromagnetic channels. So for Brad and I, we have zero companionship. We have five electromagnetic. We have three dominant. Those are all Brad. And then we have two compromise channels. So, what do these mean? So, companionship channels are also known as friendship channels. And I know, like I said, we don't have any, but that's okay. This is when two people have the same channel within our individual charts. And these channels can be things that people lean into during really hard or difficult times in their lives. But like I said, this doesn't affect the relationship in a negative way. Then there's the dominance channels. This is where someone has that complete channel, and then the other person doesn't have not only the channel, but they don't have either gate. So these qualities make up the uniqueness of that person. And right here, this makes up the uniqueness of Brad because all three of those are his all in orange. So while I can tap into that energy of his, it's really solely that person's. And then there is the compromise channels. So this is when person A has one gate and the person B has the entire channel. Person B will actually dominate the energy of the channel, and person A usually has, I would say, like a wide range reaction to this. They can get, overwhelmed by the energy, or they can actually lean into it and get some excitement, use the energy to do whatever it needs based off the theme of the gate and the channel. But in order for these channels to work in a relationship, person B, who has the whole channel, the dominance of it, needs to listen to person A, who only has one of the gates, and, talk about their experiences with the gate. Be open minded and listen to them because you might have more in common than you realize. And that can also help with compromising on things or moving forward. Last but not least, there's the electromagnetic channels, and they are known as the attraction or the repulsion in relationships. So, this is when person A has one gate and person B has the other, and they create a channel together. Of course, what each person brings to that channel does impact how it is used or even seen in the relationship. So, for example, you might find something about that person extremely attractive in the beginning of your relationship, and then later on find it highly annoying. Or you may have one point of view with your gate, and the other person has a completely different point of view with their gate. And when they come together, it's like complete opposites, and you two disagree, and it causes arguments. So, out of all the channel types to start with, I'm actually going to be focusing on Brad and his dominance channels. Okay, so the first dominance channel that I want to share about is called concentration, and it's located in the root and it goes up to the sacral from gate 52 to gate 9. Gate 9 is the gate of focus. Gates actually have multiple names sometimes, but I'm going to try to give you both of them, or maybe even three, if depending on your knowledge. So, gate of focus, or it's also known as taming power of the small. Having this gate allows the person to have a deep capacity for focus, but not for long periods of time. So, sometimes you can seem obsessive about what you think and how you do things to the point where you can't let go of an idea. Then there is gate 52. This is called the gate of stillness. It is also known as keeping still or the mountain. If you're someone who's visual, the mountain is my favorite to actually be able to think about this gate. So here you have the ability to sit still and concentrate for long periods of time. Without gate 9, it cannot sit still with an intention or a focus. Overall, this gate is highly creative, it is patient, and it knows timing is everything. So the entire channel is called the channel of concentration. It is one of the 3 format channels, which is a very powerful energy, and when one of them is in someone's design, it actually dominates the overall experience of this person and makes all of their channels more intense. The concentration channel influences your entire design, especially when the sacral responds to it. And Brad, since this is one of the most important channels in your chart and it affects me as well, I'm going to overlap some other areas of your chart to give you a better picture of how this shows up for you and for us. So, the energy actually flows upwards from the root to the sacral in pulses. When it's on, you can focus and concentrate. But when it's off, it's best for you to rest in that gate 52 of stillness or, the mountain. So within this channel, you can dedicate yourself to learning and knowing whatever you have committed yourself to. You pay attention to the details. You have the capacity to persevere and focus for long periods of time. Overall, you have this um, deep well of self discipline. Because you have this channel dominant in your chart, you can be an example for others as you like naturally bring people together into focus. So, with that being said, just like I mentioned earlier, your profile type is a 2-4. Sitting in concentration makes so much sense for the line 2, that hermit type. And then bringing people together into focus makes sense for the line 4, which is also called the opportunist, but sometimes people like to just say it's the networker. Plus, within other areas of your chart, you are someone who can lead when called to do so. Typically, people have a singular focus or can change their focus once they feel like a chapter is complete. Since you are a manifesting generator, you're able to have, like a disciplined and deliberate focus and concentration in many areas of your life at once. To do this, you have to experiment with what is worth focusing on for you and what is not. And yes, this is still something that's like a constant lesson. You still have moments where you don't want all of these items on your plate. So you need to use your strategy and authority. So your sacral to know what is best for you is critical because it's going to impact the rest of your chart. So, Brad, I know that that was a lot of information. How do you see this coming up in just like your everyday life?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of things in there you touched on that really, triggered something. I mean, kind of backing up, you said, deep capacity for focus, but not for long periods of time. That does kind of remind me how I worked at work, work on a task for a certain period of time. But, I need to take little breaks, when I do, and when I have focus and have the emails closed and I work on, a task or report at work, it's not for like 2 or 3 hours at a time. It's more like maybe an hour at most, and then I need to take a break. So I can focus deep, but yeah, it doesn't last super long. And so another thing that came to mind, reading this and having you talk about it is kind of the focus and determination and concentration I use to train for triathlons. 5 years ago, I decided I want to get into it, and really, I decided to do it all on my own, and with no coach, and I just online research. But it works for me. I pretty much train solo. I'm not a group training time guy. 'Cause that's where my discipline comes in, that's where my focus comes in. I'm able to motivate myself to do the training, to stick to it, and make a plan for myself and stick to it. And that's something I'm definitely proud of, that I've kinda done this on my own, um, and kinda led myself through this whole process. I need getting, a little bit better every year and trying longer distances and doing different things and different hard things, that I wouldn't have thought to do, about 6 years ago. You talk about being committed to learning and improving, deliberate focus, self-discipline. That's all part of, what I've been using, I guess, in my human design over the last 5 years, developing as a triathlete.
Yeah, and like one another thing, you haven't brought it up, but you are also the board president for the local St. Louis Tri Club, and you talk about how you want to bring people to a focus, and so you do that, casually at membership meetings. You do that on the board meetings because that is just part of who you are with some of the things that you are hoping to achieve before we leave for Portland.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it does show up that way in the say the board meetings and the membership meetings. I mean, as the president, I'm kind of expected to lead things, but like I write the agenda, I keep things on the agenda, keep things moving, bring the people together as much as possible. and that's fun. And again, it's kind of something I never thought about doing. When I first got into this, when I first joined the club, I really had no aspirations to be on the board, let alone president. Just kind of my progression that way.
And we will see that throughout the rest of your chart here in a minute.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to move on to the next one of the three. We're going to do rhythm. That has gate 5 and gate 15. This is located in the sacral, going up into the identity center. I'm pointing it out right here for you to see on YouTube. So gate 5 is known as waiting, or also known as the gate of fixed patterns. Gate 5 is all about routines. Um, this is definitely one of Brad's gifts. So, if you have this gate, a consistent routine is highly recommended to help you feel good and be effective with your energy. So, think consistency, patterns, and rhythms. Like all of those in life are important to you. Then there's gate 15. It is known as the gate of modesty, but it's also known as the gate of extremes. So you can go from one extreme to the next within the rhythms of everyday life. So even if you have a consistent pattern or routine, it will more than likely be extreme to others than yourself. So, this gate also emphasizes the love of humanity, which requires a balance between the extremes. So, this together makes the channel of rhythm. This is the only channel to be found in all living things. So it is the natural channel, bringing rhythm and flow to the natural world to hold everything together. You have your own rhythm, and when you flow in that energy, you feel secure and you have a sense of direction. Here you have a deep desire to align humanity with nature due to your love for humanity. At its highest expression, you have a love for your fellow man and ideally can lead others to see each other as equals just by finding a balance between the extremes and fixed patterns within yourself. This creates magnetism and it draws others to recognize the opportunity to decondition themselves and live authentically. Finding a balanced routine for yourself, even if it's not like other people's, it is a healthy thing for you. Usually, other people will actually be drawn to your routines, which may or may not be good for them. When living in extremes, it is good to note that the highest expression of Gate 15 is to accept other people's extremes without judgment, as that will help activate more of your magnetism. Because overall, this is the way to influence not just the people around you, but the collective as a whole. That being said, when life feels really chaotic for you, and this is really important because you are a manifesting generator, you need to return to nature and even animals, honestly, because they can help you stay calm and clear. So, whenever you feel like when I'm like, are you stressed? Or how busy do you feel? Or things like that. Instead of asking, I should just say, let's go outside. So, Brad, when I discuss that with you, like, how is this showing up, you think, in your life?
Yeah, I mean, jumping back to the beginning, balance routines. I mean, you definitely said that's a huge part of my life. I try to make everything, as routine as possible without being boring. But the thing that you even tying into the training, like getting up at the same time every morning, no matter what I'm doing the training, consistent with how I start my day, how I get into the workflow, and then how we get out of the workflow at the end of the day, and our routines with you know, what we do for meal prep and how we prepare dinner and work together to do those types of things. Like we are both, very routine because that helps people like us stay organized and on task. And like that's how we live our lives. Like I'm not you know, too much of a fly by the seat of my pants or chaotic person. I need some I like and enjoy structure and routine. But you kind of mentioned that and I kind of brought it back earlier. You talk about I can focus on something and work for, maybe an hour, a short amount of time, but like to take a break, like you mentioned it, if I see that it's like sunny outside, I haven't been outside all day and it's nice, I'll just go out in the backyard and stand and kind of close my eyes and literally just like stand in the sun. And I only do that really when it's sunny because like that makes me feel better. And yeah, I love animals. If you see animals, that's always a bonus. We've got a few animals probably around our backyard, but nature
Yes,
in general,
puppies
like
next
you
door.
said, yeah, nature in general, like you say, like, we have that in common with, enjoying being outdoors and camping and hiking. And that does absolutely bring me peace and relaxation. That's one of the things that, even if I'm outside, training, riding my bike, I really like, riding my bike outside and not listening to anything on earbuds or anything, just like enjoying the views as well too. So, I mean, it seems like that's just, I definitely see that in my life between the routine, nature, how I kind of incorporate both of those together with how I work and how I live.
Like, yes, you did point out like all the good things that can come from that with for us being in a relationship. And I do also like structure. It doesn't show up indirectly in my chart right here that we're going to go into, but I do very much love structure. But the one thing is that sometimes in our relationship, like I haven't spoken up when certain routines may not be good for me. Like, for example, sometimes I don't want to get up early, um, which we have really actually worked through that. I would say that I was a college athlete. You guys have heard that numerous times on the podcast. And when you've been getting up at a certain time for a majority of your life, like you just don't want to do that anymore. Like our alarm still goes off at 4:35 for us to hopefully get to the pool and at the Y to get a lane for both of us to swim in or just maybe me. So sometimes when I'm not feeling good or when I haven't gotten enough sleep, one thing that I've learned about my body is that especially as I'm getting older, like I need more sleep than I thought. I can no longer do what I used to do in college and run on like 6 hours of sleep. So even though Brad is training and he's very good in these routines, and he's trying to listen to his body, he does do the athlete thing and sometimes pushes through without having enough sleep. And I have told myself, like, I'm going to have to break from this routine. And take care of myself. So sometimes for me I can get really stuck and feel horrible when I don't follow the routine, the plan. But I have honestly gotten better on taking care of myself. So it's able for me to empower myself and empower it to say, hey, that's you, that's not me. And being able to even see this in our chart is really great for me. And what's funny is that I didn't actually get to say this because I forgot about it in the last channel of concentration. I've used this example numerous times. I've used this example in the relationship readings that I've given to other people is that when you're home and you are focused on work, our offices, like if you're watching this on YouTube, like Brad's in his office, I'm in my office so that we can actually share screens and do this whole thing. Um, but like if Brad is really focused on doing something and I need to be focused, it's great because I can pull in and tap into that energy. The time when it's not great is when I don't want to be working and I just need to relax and have downtime. So, like, ironically, this podcast is gonna get released on May 5th. And I am been working for some consistent days and not really taking a break. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have Tuesday be my day off or whatnot, or I'm not gonna work that much. And Brad is gonna be working from home. So it's gonna be hard for me to pull out of not only your rhythm, but it's gonna be hard for me to pull out of your concentration if I don't make the conscious choice to listen to my sacral. Maybe my sacral might say, hey, go upstairs and work, but it might also say, tell him to leave you alone. So, um, this is just another reason of like how we can get pulled into each other's channels. Like I said, this is another dominance channel of Brad's. Do you have anything now that I said that? Does anything come up for you?
No, I mean, I see that. I definitely understand what you're saying. When I'm focused, it can help you, but it could be difficult to relax or do your own thing when I'm in the house. Like even in different ways, like we see all the time, like when we're at home together working, our energies sometimes are aligned and sometimes they don't. And
Oh God, no.
we see the effects of that. So that's why it's always good for me to go in the office a few days a week. 'Cause I think we both agreed that like us both working from home would not work
No,
in
mm-mm,
long
never.
term.
I mean, if it was sunny 24/7 and I would be like, "Hey, you need to go outside and touch grass." Like that, then I'd be like, "Oh, I got peace for like 20 minutes." Because sometimes because Brad is a manifesting generator, has so much energy, like it can make me feel stressed. It reminds me, I can't remember when this was. Um, you were running around, you had so much to do, you had to leave for somewhere, and I was like, "How are you feeling?" And you couldn't come up with a word, and I said, "Scattered," and you're like, "I was instantly thinking that." And I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
because I
that was
feel
pretty recent.
scattered. I can't deal with this." All right,
I
let's
can
get into the
imagine
next
watching me. Yeah, well, I can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine myself, and then like watching myself, like from your point of view, I
Oh,
get that. I can understand how that would affect you.
Yeah, it's quite entertaining sometimes. Other times I'm just like, I'm gonna lock myself. Anyways, we're gonna go into the next dominance channel. This is gate 21 to 45. I'm pointing it out right here. It's from the throat to the heart center. And this is called the money line. So, gate 21 has a variety of names. I'll give you all of them, and I'm going to tell you which one I like the most. It's called Gliding Through, it's the gate of the hunter or huntress, or the gate of the treasurer. Personally, I think calling gate 21 the gate of the treasurer makes more sense. Here is the person who is in control of resources. They love, and I'll repeat, love their material items. And when asked, they have the wisdom to share with others about how to best use their resources, even when it's actually saving money before using resources. Then there is gate 45. This is called gathering together, also known as the gate of the gatherer or the king or queen. I would say gate 45 is all about natural leadership through influence. It is easy, it is effortless, and it usually has to be called out by others. This gate usually has a desire to be part of a group, and it can really struggle with change, especially if it means leaving groups of people behind. That being said, a person with this gate can either be someone who can save their resources or is a very good spender of all their resources. So the channel altogether is the money line or the channel of money. This channel is about embracing and mastering the material world, but only through using your own willpower. So you are someone who needs to use your willpower, but only in the way that it protects your own interests or goals while serving other people. With the money line, you work best independently, either by becoming your own boss or having the freedom to follow your own rhythm. This will bring you success for yourself and those around you. Typically, if a person has this channel, they are here to lead others. The issue is that they don't technically like to work with other people. But this is just because they don't feel they can rely on other people to get shit done. So they rarely delegate. So when you can't trust people to do what you ask, it causes you to have a lot of additional stress, which honestly can lead to a lot of heart issues. Now, in a relationship, you are a person who likes to be in control of the resources or feel like you are. This gives you a sense of control, but yet at the same time, freedom. Um, but this can become a struggle when someone like myself shares how or when we can or cannot spend the resources or the money. So, to express this channel in its highest form, it is best to come up with a way to balance in order to share resources and then find time for rest, which would then lead to saving resources. So, Brad, I think there's a lot of things that we could say about this that actually overlap not only just within this entire channel, but also with the other channels as well, especially rhythm. But what do you see?
So one thing that first popped out, you mentioned I work best independently. Becoming your own boss, having freedom, follow my own rhythm. Um, yeah, I kind of mentioned earlier, I like to train solo. I work best independently. I'm not a huge fan of like group projects historically in school. And even it's funny because even the company I work for is a very entrepreneurial company. As a consultant, we're encouraged to be very independent. It's kind of like we each have our own little consultancy, with support around us, but very little vertical structure and very little restraint. So you are allowed, kind of as much as you want, work by yourself. We're obviously encouraged to work with others, and we do. But it kind of aligns with how I work as well. And you kind of mentioned like, oh, when you don't trust others, you don't delegate. Like that's really a personality trait that I've always had. Is kind of like if you want to do it, if you want it done right, do it yourself. I've always been that kind of person. So I definitely feel like that it shows up at work, shows up in personal life, it shows up, probably too much. Like I'm the president of the triathlon board. I need to be able to delegate stuff to board members and things like that. And it's difficult
Yeah.
for me because I'm a little bit inherently distrustful about people doing things. So something definitely I need to work on, especially now that I'm, team leader at work and I have people I can delegate things to in work and in personal life with the club or whatever. So that's something that's definitely an area of improvement that I need to work on.
Yeah,
And you
and
kind of,
one thing though that you could clarify for people is that you're not you in your company, you're called a consultant, but you're really an engineer. And engineers have a lot of people that they need to work with externally in order to take projects on and to get things handled. But then also, it's sometimes finding another expert within the company to either work on the same project or to delegate or to share it to to another person. So that's how the company you currently work with is very entrepreneurial because you have to find your business outside of the company. Sometimes it comes in once you have referrals and you've done networking and etc. But also within the company, you actually have to say, "Hey, I'm an expert at this. I have this background. I've just done this case. I've just done that. I've done a deposition, etc." And then people rely on you for, another project, sounding off on what would you do if you were this. Even though it is entrepreneurial based of what you do in the company that you're at, it's still very highly communicative and, bringing people together. It's just not like what you would normally see in a corporate structure of what other people may have already experienced.
yeah, it's definitely collaborative still. Like, yeah, you said, I'm an engineer, my job title is consultant. And, we're all in different groups, grouped by engineers and disciplines, but we're still not in silos by any means because we're encouraged to be collaborative and work with people in other groups. And usually, and you kind of hit on it, like the work we get in requires that. It requires multiple disciplines of engineers, different people with different expertise to come together to solve the problem. Even if the client doesn't know that at first, they might have, a problem. They think they need one type of engineer. And we'll say, well, we also need to get input from these other people because there's these aspects of the project. And that's very common. So yeah, it's very collaborative, but yeah, not within a very tight corporate structure because you mentioned it, internal marketing, like marketing ourselves to the other consultants and other engineers in the company is just as important as external marketing because we have, hundreds of engineers, spread across the country and there may be somebody across the country that needs your skills because we're not grouped geographically, by our skill set. So you need to make sure other people in the company know what you do so they can call you if they need you. And that's kind of the entrepreneurial part. So there's no real defined system for who gets what work. It's bring in work and then bring in another consultant on the job you brought in as you see fit. So if you know a person that has certain skills, you bring them onto your jobs. So it is pretty unique. I mean, like you said, it's a corporation, but it has got some corporate structure, but it works very well for people like me and other engineers because you got kind of a wide range of personalities. A little bit, engineers mostly, people have certain stereotypes about them. But you can be
Yes.
an engineer. Yeah, you could be an engineer, worker bee, keep your head down, work only by yourself, like in a completely support role. You could make a living at this company just working for internal clients if you don't want to be outwardly facing to external clients. But for someone like me, I do both. I like outwardly
Mhm.
facing work, bringing in the work from external clients, but also being a resource for people inside the company too. So I'm able to work that way, and you can balance that to however you want. So yeah, it's a
Yeah.
unique environment within a corporation for sure.
Right, and this, like, even panels back to, like, your rhythm channel, like, the rhythm channel is, like, doing things at your own pace and whatnot, and one of the things that we do really like about your company is that the flexibility that it has, of course, like, us moving to Portland because I have an office there, like, it's one of the 20 now that it has across the country, as well as the fact, like, some days you work from home, some days you don't, because some days you might have an inspection that's closer if you left from home than from the office, or you're actually flying out for a business development conference. Like those flexibilities of things that, pre COVID, like when I worked for corporate, it was like, no, you can't work from home at all because we don't allow that to happen. Like it's a completely different entrepreneurial structure that is also still based on a lot of trust. And so the more that you have like leaned into these three areas that we have just gone over, the dominance channels of our connection chart, it actually does impact you in a variety of ways. And when I even think about how this shows up in our relationship and how it really helps me too, is that we get into this situation where, yes, like you are like maybe so focused on work, you're so doing all these things. And then I'm like, hey, let's talk about finances. And I'm usually like, Friday finances, let's like just make it a thing. And we don't do it all the time. But it allows us to actually have discussions about things that maybe most relationships should do, but we don't all the time. But how we're using our resources, how to spend money, how to achieve our goals. And then Honestly, I love the fact of being able to like really tap into this because I'm delegating. I have learned through my own relationship issues before Brad, before coaching, and when I was like in doing my own therapy work and my own inner work of how often I didn't ask for help in relationships, or even maybe asking for help at work, and how that then would impact me with a variety of resources, whether that's financial, um, and whatnot, but maybe it was even like related to health and stress and time and sleep. Like those, all those things play a part in this money line because everything that is considered a resource to you really does bring in abundance. I will say that I didn't get into it here, but this also is a place that you can honestly manifest from as it comes from your throat and it's part of the ego center, which is also, like I said, the heart center. So having the drive, the willpower, and the desire for something, you can manifest resources with the money line. So, Brad, you when you first heard about manifestation, you didn't really believe it or want to do it. I'm just jumping in here and just doing a side story about it. Um, but I told you that you could, and this was before human design even, and I remember one of your first times that you were at a Tri Club member meeting and you weren't even a board member. And how about you go ahead and share your little prize?
We have, yeah, I mean, we everybody gets a raffle ticket when they come in, so we have door prizes from our sponsors that we draw for at the end of the night, and I think, and I there's a certain number of prizes, and then probably double the number of people there, so not everybody gets a prize, but um, yeah, you're kind of in the first person, you get to choose whatever you want, so there you can see what's out on the table, and and so I get when I used to get to meetings when I was just a member, I'd go look at the prize table and be like, oh, I want if I get picked, I want that. I'm gonna pick this, and there was this hat that I really wanted, and I got so I was like, oh, I want that hat. Definitely would want that hat. If nothing else on this table I want that hat. So at the end of the night, uh, they drew the tickets, and I was maybe the first or second one to write on it. Went up and went and got that hat. And I think I was texting at the time. I wanted to win this hat. I was able to get it.
And then you've
And
manifested like gift cards and other
gift
stuff. And
cards, yeah, yeah. I remember,
yeah.
yeah. There's another time you're like, oh, I want a gift card. So I was able to get drawn early enough to get the gift card that I wanted to. So that's happened. That's happened a few times, and there was definitely, like those two were very like focused and like right on manifestation. They weren't just like, oh, I want to win. I want my ticket to get called.
Yep.
I want to win a prize. It was like it was very specific about the intention first, and then it worked.
All right. So now this podcast is getting quite long because of course Brad and I have really great stories and there's so much to a relationship reading or in even this just connection chart that I'm sharing here. So we're going to go over the next two channels, the compromise channels that Brad and I have, and then there's going to be a part two where we're going to get into the electromagnetic channels. So for the rest of these, the compromise channels and the electromagnetic channels, I'm going to talk about not only the channel but the specific gates in more depth because some of the gates are going to need more context and more detail just because it's important for how it shows up in our relationship. So that's just something I want Brad to be aware of as we discuss. Um, and as I go into some of these gates, know that having the other gate to form the channel allows it to show up fully as it needs that connection because all gates are pulling towards its coordinating gate. So we'll start with Brad still. We'll stick with you. We're going to talk about the channel of surrender, and this is gate 44 from the spleen to 26 of the heart center. I have gate 44, and if you're seeing this on YouTube, you can see the blue, that's me right there, of this entire channel. I only have that. So we're going to start with gate 44. This is called coming to meet or the gate of alertness. People with gate 44 have an instinctual knowledge of understanding and recognizing the capabilities of other people. They do this by enhancing the energy, almost like greeting people at an event. So, showing someone around, introducing them to others, or making people feel included and comfortable makes this energy feel and look good for others. This is where the selling comes from in those of us with gate 44. We can sell what is good and point out what is not. Since the gate is located in the spleen, it has this intuitive awareness to it of whether or not something is worth repeating for the best of other people or for themselves. And sometimes it can tell you when the past is about to repeat itself through recognizing patterns from past events or even past experiences. Since I do not have the gate 26, I need to be aware of some of the issues of this gate, gate 44, and that is being aware of overcommitting myself and making promises that I cannot keep. Now, as a side note, some gates within the body graph have a fear to them. A fear that's associated with gate 44 is that the past will catch up with you. Now, moving on to gate 26. This is called taming power of the great or the gate of the egoist. So not only does Brad have this channel, but gate 26 is his personality sun gate. And if you have listened to other episodes, this means that this is 70% of your personality because it's found within the personality sun gate. That being said, sometimes this is the most difficult for us to see in ourselves as we usually have conditioning around the theme of our personality sun gate. So, Brad, overall, those with gate 26 are those whose ultimate goal is to attain maximum reward for minimum effort. You have a natural ability to sell, to close the deal, and to withstand rejection. When you are recognized for your skill, and if when you're in a position where you can make your own schedule, and when you are rewarded with resources, you can create and maintain a healthy balance between resting and movement. This creates overall an influence that actually allows you to sell to other people naturally. Yet, gate 26 does blur the lines between what is true and what is not, kind of blurring and manipulating memories or having selective past recollections. So, maintaining integrity and allowing yourself to rest so that you can be recognized for what you do will actually strengthen your position and help your health. When looking at this gate a bit deeper, for you especially, because your profile is a 2-4, and because this is a sun placement, you are someone who learns from history. You have the energy and depth of reflection to learn from past experiences in order to anticipate future experiences. This is actually how you mature in life. Now, for this entire channel, it is called the channel of surrender. Some people do call it the channel of manipulation, but surrender is the route I'm going to take it. So you have an instinct for knowing how to present anything to anyone in such a way that you and or your message can be recognized. There is a lesson here, and that is to wait until you're asked to share or that your market finds you rather than trying to sell yourself for recognition. So overall, this channel uses its instincts to sell a message, a product, or a truth. The real gift is that when a person has this channel, they know exactly how to adapt and use their voice to get their message across to whoever they are talking to. And people with the entire channel are able to influence others because they can use their energy to convince others that their ideas are good and worthy of specific resources, dedication, work, etc. They can also be the ones who share a truth and hold things in integrity as they understand and have learned those lessons from their past. So, Brad, with you having this whole channel, you're supposed to trust your instincts about who to work with. So, if someone or a situation doesn't smell right, smells fishy, like however people want to put that, you would not want to work with them or associate with those people. You also need to balance the energy of this channel, knowing that it's part of its goals to attain more rest while being effective in sharing or selling its message. So, when I say this for you, how does that show up like for you personally? How do you feel like it shows up in our relationship?
Yeah, I mean, working backwards to what you just said, that does make a lot of sense. Learning from history, and then kind of goes along to me with knowing if something said smells fishy about somebody and knowing not to work with them. Even kind of separate from just gut, it's like using my experiences from the past to say, no, this isn't going to work. Like I can't work with somebody like this, or like the vibe that they're giving off. I could definitely tell. So like I think that makes a lot of sense. Um, and you talk about influencing others, different types of groups, getting different types of groups to hear your message. I have to do that at work, because we have several different like types of clients, whether it's insurance industry or attorneys or, private homeowners, property managers. Like it's a different message to sell to all those people. And so that's kind of something that, it's taken me some time, but it's definitely something I know I can do and I'm pretty confident at. So yeah, tailoring the message is definitely something I've learned, and I feel is pretty good strength. You mentioned something about selective memories and past recollections. I think that's shown up in our relationship before, where I think a certain thing happened, or I said a certain thing, or you said a certain thing, and then you're able to get to the point where I realize, okay, no, I was wrong. So that's been tough for me, because I think that happens more than I would like to admit or recognize, but I know that I'm to the point where now I know it happens, and so I'm trying to be better about that. But it's funny because and you mentioned that selling is a natural ability, which 20 years ago I would have said that's crazy. My dad is a salesman. I didn't think I had a whole lot in common with his personality, but it's definitely come out of me as it's kind of been required of several of my jobs, but then it's also like I feel like, yeah, I would agree with that now. Um, in a way, like I don't consider myself a salesman, but I do know how to sell what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting development, over the last probably 15, 20 years of my life.
Yeah, and I would say, like, some people don't know this, and I guess I'm gonna kind of drop it on you, is that some of the things that show up in our design are actually also from our parents. So certain parts of my design my dad has, and certain parts of my mom's design I have. So if we knew your dad's information, we could look it up and see if he has gate 26 or if he even has this whole channel, because you could. But I also think one of the things is like you learning from history, you can take, even if it's just want to flip it back to relationship stuff, like you've been out with your guy friends and they have asked you, like when you guys have done like a guys trip, and like, how do you make a relationship work? And you're able to really speak from past experiences of like, okay, my ex-wife and I didn't work, or ex relationships didn't work, but here's what's working in our current relationship and how different that is. And selling the things that we do, or the things that you have recognized that bring success to relationships to your guy friends. Um, for us in our relationship, like what I can see, just to be honest, I think it's tricky. I know for me, like gate 44, I can see that strongly. Like I can see how I work with clients. I can see the things that might be holding them back. There's other parts of the chart that we'll get into, especially in the electromagnetic channels, where that might also be coming from. Um, but I can also see how the potential of people, the capabilities that they have. And I know I can see that in you, and like how you train, what you can do for work, all the things. But I can remember how you sold me on moving to St. Louis. Like we both wanted to get out of Omaha. We both were this and that. And I'm like, this new company that we were, now it's not new, it's the current company you're with, how great it was going to be for you. And I was like, okay, I'm fine with moving to St. Louis. And now I can see how my gate 44 is able to take into account like how the last few years have been, and how either those plans did or didn't happen or didn't come to fruition, which has allowed me to be like, oh, this reminds me of this, or I'm seeing a pattern here and I think I want to change. And then I'm able to tap into gate 26 to be like, hey, here's the deal. I think we need to make a different change for our relationship. I think we might want to move. These sort of things that I'm able to tap into and sell to you allows you to then use your gate 44 to tap in and say, is this true? Do I see a similar pattern, etc. So when I share that example, is there anything that comes up?
Yeah, it's funny because I don't feel like I was trying to sell you strongly on moving. I guess it's kind of easier because I know you wanted to relocate, but um, it was to me. It was just like this is a really good opportunity. There's kind of a confluence of several things, like with the job, and we wanted to move, and the location of the move at the time, seemed a really good direction. So, um, what I remember, even though I was still on the fence about stuff, I just remember you saying we're moving to St. Louis, like in April or whatever. Like you set a date at some point, like kind of early on, like no, we're moving, and like
No, that was when we were getting
oh,
married.
okay, like my selective memory.
There it goes.
Yeah,
There's gate 26. No, we were going to move in June, and
yeah.
I quit my job early, and you had an opportunity. We're like, well, let's try moving in April. Like it was a whole different thing.
I think maybe we decided we were moving before job stuff was finalized. We're just like we're moving.
Yeah, that's a whole nother discussion, but yes.
Mhm.
As you guys can see, Gate 26 in process right now. All right. So now when we think about this, like we've been discussing Brad's dominant channels and whatnot. And if you can see on YouTube, I have one channel only. And so this is the thing that I get to dominate in our relationship. This is the channel of power. And so it starts with the gate 57 in the spleen and it comes over to 34 in the sacral. Brad also has gate 57 in the spleen. So I'm going to start off with 34. This is called the power of the great or the gate of power. People with gate 34, their actions are generally very independent and self focused. And they usually, and I say usually because of conditioning, but I'll just go in and say, we don't feel guilty about it. This gate is highly expressive. It's wanting to display and celebrate our uniqueness in the world. And ironically enough, it can connect to three different gates in three different centers. So, once again, that adds a whole different flavor to its expression. So for myself, gate 34 connects to the spleen through gate 57, which allows me to follow my intuition, which will then empower my ability to hear what I need in order to survive in the present moment. With the energy coming from the sacral, people want that energy because gate 34 is the busiest gate in the entire chart, and whoever has it can be an amazing multitasker. I like to say that this gate 34 is usually very present in manifesting generators, and I have been mistaken in the past for being a manifesting generator just because of having this gate. So anyone with gate 34 must be busy. If they are not, it can be bottled up like thinking within the body and released in all unhealthy ways. So, like getting sick, having no energy because you're not spending your energy on the right things. So, even though Brad can tap into the busy energy, he really doesn't need to. He's busy enough as a manifesting generator. That's because the energy that is from 34 within myself is only powerful when it responds to my sacral response. Moving on to gate 57, like I said, Brad has this gate as well. This is called the gate of the gentle or the gate of intuitive clarity. People with gate 57 have an intuitive awareness that ensures their survival. Hearing and vibrations from sound come from this gate, and it is the gate of the right ear. Since it's located in the spleen, it hears our immune system. Listening to it must come from practicing your strategy. Otherwise, it won't be heard as it only speaks once. It also has the fear of the unknown as its lowest vibration. Another struggle with this gate is that one intuitive hit will be different than the next intuitive hit. This is because it's only true in the present moment. For those who have a lot of logic in their chart, like Brad, it is difficult to trust your intuition because it changes so much moment to moment. Overall, this is the most intuitive gate of the entire human design chart, and psychic abilities are not out of the question. They're actually more common for those of us with this gate. But once again, it's a battle of challenging your personal uncertainty and confusion when trying to listen to your intuition. So, altogether, gate 34 and gate 57 make the channel of power. This channel allows a person to have awareness and survival intelligence, keeping us alert. But in order to do so, the person must be grounded and connected to their body consciously. So, staying out of the head or the mind, saying things like, I think, can lead a person away from their intuition. By bringing the person back into their body by using their strategy, it builds trust within themselves and leads to developing their intuition. Those with this channel are sensitive to sound. So, losing your hearing, especially in the right ear, can be difficult for you to pick up on the intuitive guidance that you receive from this gate, as you actually tend to be very clairaudient. Overall, this channel is solely focused on the needs of the self and self empowerment. When I trust myself and follow my intuition, I am independent, alert, and physically fit for my individual survival. Once doing so, I can become an example of what it means to enjoy being completely alive, a differentiated person who has removed conditioning and allows themselves to live in the moment by moment in response. So, Brad, when I share this, What do you think about Gate 57, as well as how do you see this channel in our relationship?
Well, you mentioned hearing and sensitive to sound. I mean, we talked about this, and I feel I can't hear very high frequencies at all anymore from playing drums and music when I was younger in high school, in a band and things like that, and concerts, and my ears are always kind of ringing. So I thought that was interesting, whether that affects my intuition or not. Or I've been working on, I guess, getting more focused on paying attention to intuition, but not sure if sometimes maybe that hearing loss gets in the way. So I'm trying to be better at recognizing, when I do have that intuition, trusting it and following it.
I would say that because you're learning how to play with your strategy first, that is going to be really important for tapping into it. The more that I listen to my strategy, the more my intuition has come in. But like I had mentioned before, it comes in, it comes out. It says it's one thing and then it's gone. So you tapping into your strategy more often of listening to your gut will allow you to respond using your gut. That will allow you to build that self trust to bring your intuition forward.
Yeah, I mean, like you said too, it changes moment to moment, so that can make it more difficult. For me too, is how I receive that intuition or what I'm feeling, what I'm calling intuition, and the way it comes in, and what it's doing seems kind of different. So, like you said, it can be difficult for me to trust it based on how much it changes.
Yeah. And I'll say, like, sometimes, and this is going to probably be more in an electromagnetic channel, is that we experience this back and forth. Like, I've used this example a few times with like friends and whatnot, but like, we will experience intuitive hits between each other. So one example may be, gosh, I can't even think of a recent one because this happens so often. But like, I might be thinking something and Brad says it out loud. And I'm like, I was just thinking that thought. And
And
I
vice
mean, I guess I
versa.
did it already. The scattered thing was a good one. That was a good example. Or one of us will say, like, I was thinking about we should make XYZ change, or we should go here. And the other person will say, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I was thinking about like 20 minutes or even an hour ago. And sometimes we're not even in the same room. Sometimes you're at work. Sometimes I'm at home. Like it's fascinating how much that stuff is happening to us. And I feel like we've actually had that happen. Honestly, I think more since we have lived in St. Louis. This whole last how many years has it been? 5?
5, yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you think about that?
Well, there's been I mean, yeah, totally agree with that. It's like the whole, like, we're on the same wavelength, quite a bit. It's a pretty regular occurrence, whether it's, like, the same types of thoughts or a completion of a sentence or just a general idea that we're having at the same time. I mean, I just thought of, like, a lot of times I'll pick up my phone and to text you something and I receive a text from you. Like, so say it's I mean, it could be, like, 3 hours we've had no communication, and I'll pick up my phone, text you, and then I'll get a text from you about even if it's like on the same subject or something, like that honestly happens, uh, regularly, so it's funny because like we've gone hours without thinking about each other or contacting each other, but then all of a sudden we'll be like on the phone at the same, we'll have do it at the exact same moment or our text will cross paths. So that's happened a lot. And that's a pretty big coincidence when that happens. You're talking about the exact same time, thinking like, oh, like we're on each other's mind or whatever. It's time that I shared information with them about something. So I always
Yeah.
think that's fun. Like, because I'll just say, I just picked up my phone to text you. And
Yeah, and so, like, that's a really fantastic example because some people have that too, where they're thinking about a friend and a friend all of a sudden calls them, or friend all of a sudden texts them, or they're thinking about an opportunity that they really want, and next thing you know, an email lands of saying, "Hey, can you join this thing?" Like, that can be manifestation, but sometimes that's just like the intuitive hits of something coming through. Um, and I will say how it shows up for me with clairaudience does happen. It's happened to me probably at well, it's happened to me in some really big parts of my life. My clairaudience picked up even before I had human design as a way of saying, "Oh, there it is." I had a message of "Go visit your grandma," and this was in 2007, 2006, something like that. When I was like, "Oh, I got to go visit my grandma," and I felt deeply pulled to go do that. I contact my mom, and she said, "Great," because she's passing away, and my grandma had been dying of lung cancer. She had been like going through lots of chemo and whatnot for 7 years. And I had no idea she was doing that bad. had, honestly, and visited her. And I got there just in time, within minutes of her passing away. I had an intuitive hit, clairaudience thing come through again. It said, check his phone. I caught my ex husband and him cheating on me. That was a pretty big one. And then recently, one that happened this year was that so because of having breast cancer, I need to go and get a yearly checkup called a breast MRI. Or something happened and I decided to move it. The date was in December. I said, screw it, let's move it to January. I moved it to January. I had been sick and I was like, do I really need to go? I don't know. I'm going to still go. And so I'm eating my breakfast in the morning and I hear cancel your appointment. Um, and I'm like, I stand up and I'm like, what? Why do I need to cancel my appointment? I'm totally fine. And I go to the hospital to get my MRI done. And they go to put my port in on my arm and I pass out hardcore to the point where like I was sleeping, dreaming of something, and they wake me up and I have no idea where I'm at. I'm so delusional. I have like nurses around me. The doctor that's on staff for that calls Brad from my phone because he didn't answer from the doctor's phone. And I'm like, I need you, like totally trying to play it cool. And we had to go to the ER because they had no idea what was wrong with me. And then we sit there for like half a day and they're like, oh, you're just severely dehydrated from being sick. And I was like, oh, great. So that sucks. But once I got down to like being in an ER and them checking me in, it was like, oh my God, I didn't listen to my intuition. Like, it's one of those where you want to kick yourself because you knew you shouldn't do something and you overrid the intuition. It sucks. I will also say that other parts of this is like I'm extremely sensitive to sound, and I didn't realize this until leaving the corporate world. Um, I love working from home and people think it's strange, but I do not listen to music. I don't have TV on. I only do that sometimes to like I don't know, just to change things up, but most of the time I work in silence. Um and I can't handle when two people try to talk to me on either side of my ear. It is like a pet peeve gone ballistic. Um Other than that, I have had people, and this is also possibly part of their circuitry, that have called me selfish in the past because I choose what is right for me above everything and everyone else. And their issue with that is honestly not my problem. Some people are just designed to do their own thing, and that's okay. Um, Brad, do you have anything else you want to add to that before we actually like kind of chill out with this part one? Because we got so much left
Uh,
to share.
yeah, no, I think we covered it pretty well. Yeah, I think that the doctor's visit was definitely a good example of something like that.
Yeah, and it's weird because you had to bring your husband into a type of moment. I'm like, "Oh, I should have listened to my intuition." And he's
Well, the
like, "What
yeah,
happened?" And,
getting a call from the doctor, it was a little confusing with the doctor calling me and saying, we have Molly down here and kind of tell me what's going on. I'm like, okay, like, cause she's not really being, I'm like, do you want me to come down there? Like, what
yeah.
is it serious? Cause I couldn't tell. I'm like, well, at first I thought it was serious since she wasn't really saying anything was wrong. And I had to ask, like, are you saying you want me to come down there? She's like, oh, yes, yes, you have to come down here. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, because they asked me if they think I could drive, and I was like, "If you put me here for 30 minutes, I still don't think I could drive yet." And they're like, "Well, we gotta move her because we have other appointments." So
Yeah.
yeah. But okay. So, like I said, this is going to be part one. We have discussed way longer than I thought we were going to. So, in the part two, we're going to cover all the electromagnetic channels. There will also be a YouTube video about this. But if this has already kind of made you curious about what your chart looks like and you'd like a reading like this, I have relationship readings available. I just have a limited amount each month. I basically I will review the two charts, I create your reading, and then I record it for you. And when it's complete, I email a link for you to view and download it, as well as you have a written report with my notes. This is something that you can learn more about in links in the show notes. So if you are listening to this episode, though, later in the year, like August or September of 2026, I won't have any relationship readings available until maybe late September or October because that's when Brad and I are moving to Portland. And I'm going to be using the month of August to be focused on my current clients and my mentorship clients. But of course, it's all going to depend on how we're settled, when that's gotten done. But my hope is that I will have a generated chart for you to download. that would be ready for you to purchase, which would basically only be a connection chart reading because it's not going to be as in depth as my relationship readings. For example, you have heard me pull in like Brad's a manifesting generator and how that's really worked for him, and Brad's 2 for profile. So, like, I actually overlap those things within a relationship reading, calling those things out, the personality sun gate, if it's part of a channel and how important that really is for you. I will call that out for that you and your partner would know.
So I believe you said you had something about mentorship, a mentorship offer going on now too.
Actually, thanks, honey. So as of right now for May, I have applications open for 2 women who want to be a part of my mentorship called Embodiment Mentorship. So this is really for women who want to move beyond understanding their design and living it in their everyday life, in their relationships and how they make decisions, how to set boundaries. And it's really personalized because there's not necessarily a curriculum. We start off with a 2 hour human design reading and we dive into areas where maybe you need more practice. Maybe you've already been working with your strategy and authority and you're realizing that conditioning from your open head center is causing issues in your relationships or it's causing issues of you making decisions. These are things that then we would start focusing on within the mentorship. You also then receive 2 one-on-one coaching calls each month for 6 months, as well as Monday through Friday support through either Voxer or Marco Polo, depending on your preference, whether you want like a voice app or if you want a video app. Because then I will check in with you like once a week with what's going on. And then if you come across like an everyday issue, I then help you out and respond, and we can work through things together in real time. So overall, this is a program that I have launched starting last year, but I only take 2 women at a time because it's a very personal and long journey that's very focused. And with my energy, I can only literally handle like 2 people in a mentorship at a time. Even though right now I have some people still going through their mentorship. So this is the last one that I'm running for 2026 and it starts in June. So if you want, go to the show notes and click on the application, learn more about the mentorship there. I'll have those links available to you. But like I said, we'll start in June and we'll go through almost the end of the year before I start again in January of 2027. All right. Well, honey, it was great to have you back on here to go through our connection chart and share examples of how that looks like for yourself, how it looks like for me, and how that looks like in our relationship.
Yeah, it was great. I hope we shared some good examples. I hope some people can learn some things from the story that I told.
Exactly. And then we will be back to talk about the other 5 channels because we didn't get the chance to do that in part 2. All right, ladies, thank you for listening, and I will chat with you again soon. Thank you, lady, for joining me on this journey of aligning, embodying, and rising into your most authentic self. Remember, the most important relationship you have is the one you have with yourself. And when you do the inner work, you naturally attract the love and life meant for you. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to rate and review the show. Your feedback not only helps more women discover the power of self-transformation, but also helps us grow this community. If you're ready to go deeper and align with a relationship and life you truly desire, I invite you to explore my coaching services. Together, we'll use human design, NLP techniques, and self-empowerment tools to help you break through old patterns and create a life that resonates with who you truly are. Visit reinventingthearena.com to learn more and take the next steps in your journey of self-discovery and alignment. Until next time, lady, keep aligning, keep embodying, and keep rising. Thanks for listening to Reinventing the Arena.